Welcome back. Today we are going to look at factoring of trinomials. But first, let's take our 3 warm-up problems and multiply those out. So right now I'd like for you to pause the video and work out the warm-up problems 1, 2, and 3. Alright, so you'll notice on these 3 problems I used FOIL, first, outer, inner, and last, which is just another way to do the distributive property. And I got these values. Look at your middle terms. 5x and 1x, they need to be added together to get 6x. When you add like terms, don't do anything to your exponents. 6m plus negative 4m is 2m, negative 3k and negative 7k is negative 10k. And these are your finished results. These are trinomials, 3 terms, where you have a leading coefficient of 1. You can take anything with a leading coefficient of 1, a quadratic, and write it in the generic form of x squared plus bx plus c, where, again, the leading coefficient is 1. The coefficient of your middle term is labeled as b, and then your constant term back here is labeled as c. We can take these types of trinomials and we can factor them back into the original multiplication problem. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to go from the simplest form back to the factored form. Okay, so in order to do this, you want to take your factored form x squared, or your original form x squared plus bx plus c, and you want to see what number can you add together to get b, and what number can you multiply together to get c. Because if you remember, to get this last term, here, here, and here, we multiplied the last numbers in our parenthesis. But to get these middle terms, we had to add our like terms. Okay? It's very important that you know your integer rules in order to do these. So what you want to do, if you are very poor with your integers, addition and multiplication especially, stop the video now and go to your Haiku page and watch the review integer rules video that I have on Haiku for you. It'll help you a lot. Okay, so let's talk about factoring. Now, if you're going to factor, okay, again, you've got to know those integer rules. Look at this problem. We have x squared plus 7x plus 12. This is our simplest form. We want to take this and we want to change it back into its original multiplication problem. Okay, first, outer, inner, and last. Okay, so in order to do that, we're going to take our c term. Always look at your c term. If your c term is positive, in order to get c, remember you have to multiply together your last terms. So if it's positive, there are 2 types of situations where you can get a positive. Okay, you can multiply a positive times a positive to get a positive, and you can multiply a negative times a negative to get a positive. Okay, so in order to figure out if we need 2 positives or 2 negatives, you have to look at your middle term. Your middle term is what we call our addition number. Now, if your middle term is positive, then that means that both of your signs need to be positive. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your c term, which is 12, and you're going to list all the factors of 12. And then you're going to put signs on those numbers. If your c term is positive and your middle term is positive, then all of your factors are going to be positive. But if you think about it, 12 has more than one set of factors. Okay, 12 has 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. So how do we determine which set of factors that we use? Well, that's going to be easy. We need to see which ones will add together to give me my middle term. Now, in this particular problem, if you'll notice, your middle term is 7. So 1 plus 12 is 13. 2 plus 6 is 8, but 3 plus 4 is 7. So those are the factors that I want to use. So the first thing that you should do is go ahead and draw 2 parentheses so that you'll have your 2 binomials ready to go. And what can I multiply together to get x squared? Well, we know that's x times x. And then take your two factors that you found and put those in the parenthesis with your x's, giving you x plus 3 times x plus 4. Now you can FOIL this out: first, outer, inner, and last. So you see how that last term is our multiplication number, but that middle term is found by adding together 4x and 3x to get 7x. And we go back to the original problem, and that's how you would check it. But again, C is going to be our multiplication number. Always take C and list the factors. B is going to be our addition number. Add your factors together to see which one will give you your middle number. And that will tell you which set of factors that you need to use. So let's look at number 1. First things first, let's look at C. You see how C is positive? If C is positive, you've got to have same signs. That means both of them need to be positive or both of them need to be negative. In order to figure out if we need two positives or two negatives, look at your addition number. Okay, if your addition number is positive, then that tells me that both signs need to be positive. So now that we figured out that we need same signs, both of them positive, let's take our C term, which is 20, and list its factors. 1 times 20 is 20, 2 times 10 is 20, and 4 times 5 is 20. And I need to figure out which set of factors I need to use. That's where my B comes in. So I need to figure out which set of factors will multiply to give me 20, but add to give me 9. And 4 plus 5 is 9. So n squared becomes n in both parentheses, and then since I need same signs, both of them are positive, and I'm going to use 4 and 5. FOIL it out, and then multiply everything to check it, and add your middle terms, and you're going to get right back to that original problem. Now, on number 3, C, once again, is positive, so that tells me I need same signs. My addition number is also positive, so both of those signs need to be positive. Now let's take 24 and list the factors. 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. All of these multiply to give me 24, but only 4 and 6 will add to give me 10. So my factored form will be A plus 4, A plus 6. Now let's look at number 5. This time, my C term is negative. If your multiplication number is negative, that tells me I've got to multiply opposite signs. You have to take a negative and multiply it times a positive in order to get a negative multiplication number. So let's list the factors of 18. We have 1 times 18, 2 times 9, and 3 times 6. Now, I've got to have opposite signs for my factors this time, but which factor do I make positive and which factor do I make negative? That's where your addition number is going to come in, okay? So remember, your addition number is going to take your two factors and add them together. So we're going to take a negative and we're going to add it to a positive, and we're going to get a positive. Okay, so that tells me that my biggest factor has to be positive. So this is what your biggest factor is going to be whenever you have opposite signs. So let's go over here. We have 1 and 18. 18 is my biggest factor, so 18 needs to be positive. That means my 1 will be negative. Next, I have 2 and 9. 9 is my biggest factor, so it needs to be positive, so 2 will be negative. 3 and 6, 6 is my biggest factor, so it needs to be positive, so 3 will be negative. Now, I need to multiply and get C, which is negative 18. All of these will multiply and give me negative 18. I need to see which ones will add to give me positive 3. So this is positive 17, positive 7, positive 3. Negative 3 plus 6 is a positive 3. So I'm going to get n minus 3, n plus 6. Now, it's important for you to FOIL these out or distribute these out and make sure you get back to this original problem because all of these are self-checking using FOIL. If you can FOIL it out and get back here, you know you did a good job. If you didn't, if you messed up a sign, you know you need to go back and fix your signs. Now let's look at number 7. My C term is negative, so once again that tells me that I need opposite signs. If your multiplication number is negative, you've got to have a negative and a positive for your factors. Now look at your middle term. Your middle term is positive, so that means that my biggest factor has to be positive. Okay, so let's take our 6 and let's list the factors of 6. 1 times 6 is 6 and 2 times 3 is 6. I need opposite signs for my factors. My biggest factor is positive. So 6 is bigger than 1, so 6 is positive. 3 is bigger than 2, so 3 is positive. Now, both of these will multiply to give me my multiplication number of negative 6, but only negative 2 and 3 will add together to give me 1. So my factored form is g minus 2, g plus 3. All right, let's look at the next page, up at the top. Now, on number 9, my multiplication number is negative, so that tells me that I need opposite signs. I need a negative and a positive. My middle number, which is my addition number, is negative, so that tells me that my biggest factor is negative this time. So let's list the factors of 3. Well, that's easy since it's prime. Now we need opposite signs. My biggest factor is negative this time. Since 3 is my biggest factor, then 3 is negative and 1 is positive. Now 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. 1 plus negative 3 is negative 2. So I'm in good shape here. Now using A, I'll have A plus 1, A minus 3. Now, number 11, C is negative, so I need opposite signs, a negative and a positive. My middle factor or my addition number is negative, so my biggest factor is negative. Okay, so let's look at 63. We have 1 times 63. We have 3 times 21. And then we have 7 times 9. Now, I need opposite signs. Biggest factor's negative. So 63 is negative, 21 is negative, and 9 is negative. So all 3 of these will multiply to give me negative 63. But only 7 and negative 9 will add to give me negative 2. So using B, I'm going to have B plus 7, B minus 9. And of course you would FOIL this out to make sure you get this answer. Now, number 13. This time my C is positive. So to multiply and get a positive, we need same signs. Now, when you have same signs, that means 2 positives or 2 negatives. The middle number will tell you what they need to be. So we need 2 negatives this time. So listing the factors of 24, 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. Everything needs to be negative. Because a negative times a negative is a positive, a negative plus a negative is a negative. So all of these multiply to give me 24, but only negative 3 and negative 8 add to give me negative 11. So those are the 2 factors I'm going to use. X minus 3, X minus 8. And that's my factored form. Number 15. C is positive, so that means I need same signs. My middle term is negative, so both of my signs need to be negative. Now let's list the factors of 72. 1 times 72, 2 times 36, 3 times 24, 4 times 18, 6 times 12, and 8 times 9. All of my factors need to be negative. So all of these multiply together to give me positive 72, but only negative 8 plus negative 9 will add together to give me negative 17. So I have y minus 8, y minus 9. Number 17, C is negative, so that means I need opposite signs, a positive and a negative. My middle number is positive, so my biggest factor should be positive. Let's list the factors of 16. 1 times 16, 2 times 8, and 4 times 4. I need opposite signs, biggest one positive. So 16 is positive, 8 is positive. Well, you just have to pick one here, don't you? Because those are the same number. All of these multiply together to give me negative 16, but only negative 2 and 8 will add together to give me 6. So A plus 8, A minus 2. Number 19. C is positive, so that's same signs. Both of my signs need to be positive. So 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 4 times 10, and 5 times 8. All 4 of these multiply to give me 40, but only 5 and 8 will add to give me 13. So y plus 5, y plus 8. C is negative, so that's opposite signs. The biggest factor should be negative. So 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, and 5 times 6. Okay, opposite signs, biggest factor, negative. So all of these multiply to give me negative 30, but only 5 plus negative 6 give me negative 1. So I have n plus 5, n minus 6. Now looking at 23, 25, and 27, it asks you in the directions to look for a GCF first. It doesn't matter what type of factoring problem you do, you should always look for a GCF first. So looking at number 23, I see that there is a GCF of 4. So the first thing that I'm going to do is divide that out. Now, once I get done, I'm going to factor the trinomial that's left. So I get a positive 2, so that means same signs, both of them positive. List the factors of 2, that'll multiply to give you 2 and add to give you 3. Since it's a prime number, that was easy, wasn't it? So we'll have k plus 1, k plus 2. Number 25, your GCF is 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. Now we need same signs. Both of the signs negative. So 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. Both of these will multiply to give me 4, but only negative 1 and negative 4 will add together to give me negative 5. So I'll get y minus 1, y minus 4. And if you take out a GCF, it should always stay in front of your parenthesis. Even when you factor it again, that GCF has got to follow along. It should always be in the front of your answer. That's where your GCF lives. So make sure that you have it, okay? Now, number 27, your GCF is 2. So that's going to be 2 divided by 2, 10 divided by 2, and 12 divided by 2. Now, we need same signs. Both of them positive. So 1 times 6 and 2 times 3, both of these multiply to 6, but only 2 and 3 will add to give me 5. Bring that GCF along, and we'll get b plus 2, b plus 3. And that's our answer. Remember, when you check with a GCF, only distribute to that first parenthesis, and then whatever you get, FOIL it with the second one. All All right, y'all, this is factoring in a nutshell. Make sure that you do these problems so that you can learn how to do this. Takes a little bit of practice. Go over your addition and multiplication integer rules because they're important. Y'all have a great day.